What's good, everybody? It's your boy back with another reaction video. I'll be reacting to 5 disturbing true horror stories to tell in the dark. This is from the YouTube channel Nightmare Files. So you can go, I'll put a link to the video in the description. You can go check out their channel, show them some love, their Patreon, go get on their Patreon. That reminds me, I need to start doing more with mine. Yeah, I've started uploading full episodes of. I did start to upload full episodes of The Witcher because I already watched them. I still have the full episodes that I edited down for YouTube, obviously. So I was uploading the full episodes to a BitChute because you can't upload videos more than 200 megabytes onto Patreon. At least I don't know unless you pay for. I know you can pay for Patreon. I don't know if you upload on that. I don't know, but yeah, I need to do something with. Cause I had one patron supporter, and then he was on it, and he left. That's like, cause I already do anything with him. I made that like when I first started the channel, and posted some stuff on there, but never really did anything like with it. But anyway, yeah, I'll be putting a link, like I said, to this video in the description. So let's just get into it. All right, here we. Let's meet the ball. All right, here we. Nightmare Files.
Our old house was on a corner. We had a backyard along with a side yard with a small deck that wrapped around the back. The dining room had a patio door that led out to the back, and we would have barbecues and such back there. When I was about 14, we only had one desktop computer and one laptop for the family. My brother and I would fight over the desktop because it had Diablo 2 installed on it, so I would use the laptop to write music. On one particular night, my brother had a friend over and they were downstairs doing whatever, and I was at the dining room table on the laptop.
Some big ass houses.
As I was wrapping up in my writing, I didn't pay much attention to my surroundings. I heard a knock on the patio door which startled me. I looked up expecting my brother or his friend, but the basement had a door that led onto the back deck as well, so that's why I thought it was one of them. Standing at the door and waving was a person, wearing a Halloween pig mask. Thinking it was my brother or his friend, I mouthed a good one and gave the person a finger and walked away. As soon as they left, I went downstairs to give them shit, and to my surprise and dismay, they were both sitting on the couch playing PlayStation. They swore up and down it wasn't either one of them, and there was no way that one of them would have had time to get downstairs and unmask before getting on the couch. To this day, I have no idea who it was that knocked and waved at my door.
Somebody fucking with you. I guess they didn't want to fuck with you too long because they never came back and nothing ever came of it.
The summer after I graduated from high school, I left work early and went up to my parents' cabin in northern Michigan. I spent that night at the beach watching the sunset. Once the sun went down and it became nearly pitch black, I got to my car and started driving down the highway. After about 10 seconds of being at speed, there was an older Tahoe, maybe late 90s, that started riding really close to me and flashing its high beams. So I got up to about 60 in a 45, and they were still on my butt. I pulled off to the side of the road that my parents' cabin is off of, and they took the same turn. I thought this seemed weird because there's only about 30 or 40 houses on the road. So I went all the way to the end,
That's a lot
which
of
is usually a
houses.
dead
30 to
end, but it
40
leads to a
houses.
maintenance area for the golf course nearby. The truck was still following me. At this point, I was freaking out because if I pulled into the house, they'd know where we lived and they were still following close by. Took a ton of random turns and the truck kept following every single turn for about 15 minutes. I finally had a chance to make a turn with the traffic going through the intersection that gave me a few seconds of a head start. I pulled down a side street, went up about 100 yards, and turned off all of my lights and waited. The truck slowly drove by the perpendicular street and kept going. I booked it home. I pulled my car around the side away from the main road and pulled every curtain. For an 18-year-old, I was scared as hell that night.
You should have been. But they especially follow you for 15 minutes. Like, you have murderous intent. You follow somebody for 15 minutes.
It was New Year's
Especially
Day
you
in
want to get you trying to
1995.
get their attention too.
I was in the middle of my junior year in my college.
Unless he
and
gonna
a
say
bunch of my
someone's in
friends
the
had come
back
down
seat.
to visit me and my roommate for the festivities. We were all pretty hungover from drinking the night before, and we went out for the usual post-greasy breakfast hangover stroll around the neighborhood. Two of these friends were twin brothers. One of them we hung out with all the time. The other we just met for the first time. It was pretty normal the night before, joining in on the fun, but on this day, we were all hanging out around the local basketball court, shooting hoops with an old basketball we found in the grass. And this twin brother kept following me around all over the place with the creepiest grin I've ever seen in my life, staring right into the nether regions of my soul the whole time. So I back away and then I joined the group again, and he kept following me around. When we were walking back to the apartment, it was just me and him walking down the sidewalk behind the group, and he moved in front of me. He stared at me with that creepy look again and fell down to his knees as if he was to worship me or something. I didn't know what to do or say, so I said, "Hey, buddy, you all right?
Hey, buddy.
We're heading back now, right?" And so on. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just be there on his knees, looking up at me with this clenched face and squinted eyes as if we were looking directly into the sun or something. Later that day, my roommate said he was tripping, so I thought nothing of it and moved on with my life.
Said he's tripping balls.
A few weeks later, we got a phone call from the twin brother that we usually hung out with. And it turned out that his other twin brother went over to his aunt's house with a knife and stabbed her 14 times. She didn't die, but, still pretty bad.
Oh, yeah, 14 fucking
He had even called the police before going because he knew he was going to do it, but he couldn't stop himself from doing it because, the voices and so on.
Okay.
The court case was covered in the media as this was a small community where this sort of thing doesn't happen every day. I was reading one of the articles, and one of the testimonies was that this twin brother was severely schizophrenic and was hearing voices in his head. He believed to his very bones that his aunt was the devil and that he had been commanded by God to go kill her. So who was this God that told him to go kill her? Well, as the newspaper article described, it was this guy in a group he hung out with on New Year's Day. It didn't take me long to realize that he was talking about me. This was over 20 years ago. I know for a fact that it was a mental illness, but just knowing that I somehow commanded him to go kill his aunt just stays with me to this day.
Well, he thought you was commanding him to kill his son because he's fucking crazy. Number 4.
This happened quite a few years ago when I was in college. My friends and I were living on the ground floor of an apartment, and my room was in front of the building, and outside my window was the front garden. My boyfriend and I had literally just got done playing video games. I was tired, so I put my head on the pillow and glanced to my right, which is where the window was. There was a gap between the curtain and the window, and I was met with a pair of eyes watching me. We both had the instinct to look away and quickly look back. At this point, I shouted to my ex that there was someone watching us from outside. He jumped and opened the window and shouted things at that person. He could see the grass was disturbed, so someone had been there, and by the looks, had been more than once. From further inspection the next morning, we found out that he had jumped a small hedge and exited through my neighbor's garden. We never found out who that man was.
Number 5.
Years ago, when I was a senior in high school, I had a day where I just wasn't feeling so great. So I decided, as I occasionally did, just to skip out on the last 2 classes and head home. That meant no school buses, and obviously, I had to walk 3 miles home. Before the age of computer and cell
Shit, I
phones,
live 6 miles
this was a
away
pretty
from
long and boring
my high
hike to
school.
take, so I decided to take a shortcut through some small wooded trail along the creek.
Was it
Eventually,
5?
I
Might have
came
been 6,
across
5 or
a
6.
dead cat lying in the middle of a trail. As I walked around it, I noticed another dead cat to my left. I looked to my right, and sure enough, there was another. Creeped out, I looked behind me and noticed 2 more, and yet another 2 in front of me. They were all laid out in a giant circle with one in the middle, almost like a half-assed pentagram. I sped up the pace and got the hell out of there. I never took that trail again. Thinking back, a really weird thing is that there was no visible damage to any of the cats. No blood, no cuts, nothing. They were just dead.
Probably was strangled. I think that's it. Yeah, that's it. Well, I think you could tell those stories in broad daylight too. So. Oh, but those are good stories. That pentagram, he's a half-ass pentagram, and they didn't look damaged. But like you can kill. I've been in hooded areas where animals just die. Like especially a group of animals. Like I've seen a pack of dogs where they weren't even really a pack. Like together, just a bunch of stray dogs got into something in somebody's yard. Or this was like where my grandma lived. Got into something over there. I remember they was eating it. They jumped the fence, got in the yard. I don't know what they was eating. I don't know what they had. And they got in a hole that was in the side of people's garage. And it was a bunch of, and one dog died right there inside the fence. And it was like, I want to say it was 3, might have been 4, down the alley. Like kind of just like, it was like, almost like in one area, like they had died together. Another dog died like on the other street. It was, and we all thought it had something to do. Come remember, me and my cousin walking down the alley, and we saw those dogs, all those stray dogs over there, because he was growling at us. Yeah, they stray dogs, so now they become feral, so they like territorial now. And we saw them over there, and they, especially back in the day, in that area, people had garages, like in their houses. They would have had a house and they have, a separate garage. And a lot of times there'd be a garage and just be a piece of crap. They don't use it. It's just there, but they don't have the money to clean it out and fix it up. So they just don't use it and it just rots pretty much there. And sometimes you'll see like it'd be stray animals sleeping in there, or raccoons and all that, possums, rats. And that pretty much made a den out of the damn thing. And I don't know if they were dogs getting the rat food or somebody trying to poison the dog. I don't know what, but I don't know. There's a bunch of dogs just died right. And then people, and I mean, we were not people, but me and my cousin was assuming that because we saw those pack of dogs in that yard, that it had to be somebody put something in something, and they used to go in that garage and that hole in the wall, that they ate something, and all those dogs died, like that. But that we saw anyway, that was in there. So So I remember it was cats. Cause you know cause I think animals' life expectancy go down when they're stray animals like that. And I remember it was a cat. It's like a kitten had died. His mother abandoned. We saw the kittens with the mother, and cause they were like they used to come like in our yard and shit. My cousin would try to feed them, and that's why they came in there, cause he tried to feed them, so they would come back, cause he kept putting food out there. So obviously they gonna keep coming back. And one day I think he said, cause I came over there to see my mother brought us over there, and he had one of the kittens. And the first thing I'm thinking, cause I know my cousin, I'm like, did you take one of the cat? But I'm thinking the mother cat would have attacked his ass. And he's like, he went out there, the food was gone, and the kitten was still there. So he's like, mother probably left, and the kitten didn't leave, and it was still there. But and I was looking down, I'm looking for the mama cat, because I was going to take the kitten back to her, but she was gone. And we saw those cats again. We saw like the mother and the kittens had gotten older, but this was after the cat had died. The kitten had died. Because I don't know why. My cousin had it. He was feeding it. And he said he got up because my grandmother wouldn't let him bring it inside. So she's like, I'm not taking it and paying to have like shots and stuff like that. So, and he said he went outside and it was just dead. Well, he had it. He said he had it in the back room upstairs because he couldn't put it in the house. So he would try to bring it downstairs in the basement, but he would take it upstairs in the back room where we stored a lot of stuff. And he said he just one day it was dead. So then he took it out. Like nothing happened to. I don't know while he was feeding it. He said the cow was eating. It just died. But maybe it was at that age where maybe it still needed milk. I don't know. And it was kind of transitioning from the mother's milk to food, but it was eating the food. So I don't know. I thought that was weird. But, my cousins had quite a few animals that just died because you weren't taking care of them right, or some of them ran away. I was like, you do not need an animal. Like especially over here, you want one, but you don't know how to take care of it. You don't know the responsibility of taking care of an animal like that. But especially at that age he was. But anyway, hope you all enjoyed my reaction. If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up button down below. Be sure to subscribe if you're new here. Hit that bell. If you want to be up, I keep saying if you want to be uploaded. If you want to be notified when I upload new videos, comment down below, subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.